March 21, Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation so we know who's been regularly attending or even who's just been joining. I'll pause here. We have our usual agenda, but if there's something that you'd like to add right off the top, feel free to chime in now or to add it into the any other business section. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled this week. If you do have one that you want to give, reach out to me. We'll get it scheduled. Let's take a look at the end user issues that have come in since the last one of these calls. Looks like the only new one is this one. Different outputs on a test case between J9 and hotspot. State 5000, so take a look at this.
Yeah, I'll be looking.
This was literally opened 25 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'll be looking once I get a chance.
All right, thanks, Pete.
Direct it to the right place.
It's always lovely when these things start with unsafe, but
Well, it shouldn't crash, I guess.
depending on what you're doing. I guess that brings us to the roadmap section, the 038 release. The M2 build was supposed to happen yesterday. Has that occurred?
No, so it doesn't seem like we're ready. There was a flurry of releasing over the weekend and Monday morning. And there's 2 regressions that I've added to the milestone plan. And we also enabled CRIU on Z-Linux the last minute.
Is that causing additional problems?
I don't know. There are a bunch of concurrent scavenger failures. It looks like all concurrent scavenge testing is failing on Z-Linux. So I don't know if that's a result of turning on CRIU or if it's a result of some other change. And I don't absolutely know that the regression affects 038, but I don't know that it doesn't. So until we figure it out, I've added it to the 038 milestone plan.
I'm assuming the regressions are marked as blockers.
Right. So the RAS one seems to be a result of a CRIU change. And it showed up on Z-Linux when we enabled CRIU on Z-Linux. And then the Z-Linux concurrent scavenger, I haven't tried to figure out what's causing that. But whatever's causing it was released yesterday or over the weekend.
So we're delayed at least a little bit, given that there's still 12 items in here.
So I think not all those items are real. Some of them are docs. Some of them are things that can happen after a milestone 2. Some of them are just make sure we check this thing. Some of them are actually resolved, but maybe not on all versions. So I think the 2 things that should concern us are the blockers, and then there is a FIPS change that needs to go into this release that hasn't been delivered yet. I guess the FIPS change is not reflected in the milestone plan. Maybe we should create an issue for it, just so we have something.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, and otherwise, release date of April 18. Even with the regressions, you still believe we're on track for that?
Yeah, well, we just discovered these this morning, so I think we have time to resolve them and still do a milestone 2 and get the release out on time at this point.
Is there anything else we need to discuss for the 038 release? jump to Java 19. Pull up the milestone plan there as well. We have 5 items open. Probably worth doing a quick run through of each of them. Daryl, do you have an update on the correction?
Still investigating that one. We're kind of ruling some things out, but it's kind of at the state right now where some of the diagnostic information that we need in order to make further progress has been hard to collect. It's just not failing when we're trying to collect it. So we may need to get a little bit creative on that front, but wheels are turning. It's been challenging to get traction on that one. So.
The Skynet fails on larger machines issue.
We're about to merge it. It's in the last round for the code review and for the another fully test for the another GC policy in order to check if we have anything satisfaction.
Good to hear that's close to merging. The next Skynet hang timeout issue.
So I have a PR that is currently under review. Sanity and Functional and OpenJDK have been agreeing on that. Just confirming with a larger build to make sure there's no failures in extended and the system testings.
Okay. Do you have an ETA on when you think that testing will be complete?
Should be done today. I started yesterday.
And then has the code been reviewed at this point as well?
It have been go through a rough review, but we're pending a more in-depth review by GAC and Babnute.
Sounds like some good progress there as well. The breakpoint in yield test.
That one can only be reproduced in the grinder. I've tried locally without successful, and I've been trying to add some instrumentation to the to get a bit more detail on the issue. So far, even with some of the work in progress changes on the DDR side to display the continuation stack, I was still not able to really get a valid trace on the continuation to get where exactly the cause of the failure is. So I have some work in progress that will be currently instrumenting the failure point. So instead of directly failing, we want to pause it there and look back at the stack and some of the data on the stack to see if we can figure out what is causing this one.
Okay. So more investigation needed, it sounds like.
Yeah.
The timed crash.
That's just waiting for the backport PR to be merged and closed.
I think it was merged yesterday.
Yeah, I think we could just close this, but I thought somebody else should go ahead and do that.
Okay, I can do it.
All right, so that's down to 4 items. That's a pretty good place. Does that mean that we're ready for an M2 build? We're getting close to ready for an M2 build?
I don't think we should do an M2 build before the performance change is merged. That could affect things.
Performance change being
The Skynet.
this one.
Yeah, that one. And plus, we've got the GC change. Unless we want to do an M2. I'm not sure what's gone in since we did M1. I guess we could look and see what's gone in. But I wouldn't want to do an M2 and then release a bunch of stuff that seems like it's risky and then go for GA.
Well, we're starting to run out of time for a meaningful GA on Java 19.
So IBM would like to proceed with a GA, even if it's after the April 18th. I mean, all these things need to be resolved for having a Java 20 release, so they need to continue to be worked.
My concern is if we shipped a 19 GA at that point, we're handing out something that is knowingly insecure at that point.
Understood. So IBM is going to work on how that's possible. I mean, I suppose OpenJ9 doesn't have to release anything. IBM can take the code and do what they like.
Yeah, I think that may be my preference because I don't like to see the OpenJ9 project say, hey, here's a GA thing, take this, at a point where we know it's insecure and we know that there are, at that point, exposed security vulnerabilities in it.
Yep. There is some hope that we will still be able to meet the deadline.
Love the optimism there.
Yep.
With the difference in 19 between 19 and 19.1, I know 20 will have come out at that point. That's the issue. Never mind.
20 is actually probably already released. It's coming out today.
Yes, I was going to say if it was only 19.1, we could, and the changes were small enough between the 19 we have and the next dot release of 19, but it's the fact that it's 20.1 that's coming out.
Yeah, so there will be a 20.0.1 that has security fixes that in theory could be backported to a 19 for Semru, but I'm not sure that that would happen.
Yeah. Which is where my concern comes in. There's no...
So any Semru release would be tagged as this is not for production. This is just a preview of virtual threads.
Yeah, at that point I'm not... That's really IBM's concern. You can sort that out if IBM wants to proceed there. I don't think from an OpenJ9 perspective it makes sense to tag a GA on 19.
Yeah.
In terms of Java 20 then, if that's coming out today or maybe out already, our particular release plan here is 50-ish items. Do we have I suspect the answer is no, but have we had a chance to start digging into this to see how many of these we can close out? What our timeline is for getting 20 out the door?
So yes and no. We have resolved some things for 20, and we have some test suites that are passing. We have other things that are still in progress. There's a bunch of stuff in here that was pushed for 19, and I don't think anybody's looked at it yet. We have some new issues that are recently raised that are kind of mysterious. So there is a bunch of work to do here.
Okay. Do we have a particular target? Are we trying to get 20 out on a time frame that lets us catch up for 21, or do we expect that our delay is going to continue and we'll be shipping 20 around the time that 21 goes GA upstream?
Well, we can rule out 20.0.1 as a, shipping next month. So we could hope to have something done before 2002, but probably unlikely. So 2002 is something to try to target, but probably too early to tell. And maybe some of those things that we've pushed forward from 19, we could push forward again. And then if the structured concurrency, like, is that going to remain an incubator in Java 21? Like, we may not need to do that work to get a 21 out the door.
I don't know if we can count on it being incubator or if it's changing to preview.
Yeah, so, but there may be some things that we could push forward. So we'll have to figure out what needs to be done and what could be deferred. Try to get as much done as possible while still getting a release out as soon as possible.
Yeah. Paging through this, there's a fortunately a large number of these things, and they look like they're going to be the same kind of fiddly pieces we've been fighting for a while. All right. Doesn't look like we have a great timeline on 20 yet. Anything else we want to touch on for these? Actually, that was the other thing I was going to ask. Are we up to date on the OpenJDK 20 code? Are we at least pulled in the latest version of that?
Yes. I mean, it hasn't changed in weeks because they did their final release candidate weeks ago, or maybe probably over a month ago. So we can look forward to a 2001 changes coming in after today.
Anything else we want to touch on for the release section? You have an update from the adopt side? Adam on the call, do we have an update on the infrastructure?
Nothing to report. I'll update that note.
Thanks, Adam. Marius on the call, do we have an update on?
Yes, I am. For a change. Okay, so for GIS server, we updated the Helm charts to handle release 036. I pushed also 2 PRs for Liberty Docker images to allow a user to not trim the share class cache that is embedded, and also to specify a desired size. So this is needed if you want to use the AOT cache feature at GIS server, which needs to have a share class cache at the client. And typically Liberty trims the embedded share class cache to be as small as possible and makes it read-only. So these changes allows one to make the share class cache not read-only and make it a specific size. There was another change of mine about disclaiming old session caches sooner than we did previously in order to improve the footprint at the server. So this is done by measuring the density of compilation requests, and when that density decreases under a certain threshold, then we declare that the remaining very few compilations are probably not important for performance and therefore can be kept local rather than send them to the GIS server. And if the GIS server doesn't see compilation requests coming from the client, after some time it will disclaim the session cache that it keeps. Another item was storing the J2I thunks in the AOT cache. This is something that we missed, so this is in a sense a bug fix. We've also added some RAS features, so we added filters for methods that should not be sent to GIS server or should not be loaded from the AOT cache, just to be able to handle potential bugs that can appear in the GIS server code. Also, we published an article about troubleshooting Several Cloud Compiler. That's how it's called, troubleshooting the Several Cloud Compiler, and this is posted on IBM Developer. Going forward, we have 2 items. So one is EDO. The EDO stands for Exception Directed Optimization. So we'll implement EDO support for AOT and G server. So these need some relocation records. And the last one, which is a very complicated one, is the eliminating the need for having a shared class cache at the client when using the AOT cache at G server. So basically decoupling the AOT cache from the classes that are stored in the shared class cache. But this is complicated and it's probably going to take the rest of the year. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Marius. If you have a link to the blog, we can paste it into the minutes here.
Okay, I'll send it to you. MicroJIT, there are no more MicroJIT meetings. So the students from the MicroJIT project said that at this point they don't benefit for such meetings, and I shouldn't say we took them off, but for the time being, there are no more meetings being scheduled. If they feel they'll benefit again from such meetings, we'll reinstate them.
Is there an update on how the MicroJIT work is going? Is that nearing?
It's going very, very slowly. So the latest that has happened is support for invoke virtual and invoke special, and also array operations, A load, and all those. But still, we are far from having a complete coverage of the bytecodes. It's like, I don't know, 70-something% coverage. And I know that there are also some bugs because it cannot run many of the Da Capo benchmarks yet.
All right. Toby, is there an update on CRIU?
Yeah, so we've, as Peter said, we finalized a bunch of the changes that we want to get in for 0.38, enabled Z Linux as well. So yeah, at this point, the focus is on addressing some of the issues that were found and making sure that those are resolved in the near future. The other thing that we've found out recently is that there is we're seeing a restore regression. It's a few milliseconds. The suspicion is it's related to some of the serviceability changes we made. So we want to identify that, and if it's something we think we can fix in the next couple of days, we'll try to do that. But that's kind of the main focus right now, just fixing any issues that are found.
Toby? The Mac Silicon, Apple Silicon work? Do we have an update on that?
Nothing new for this week.
Any other business we want to tackle this week? All right, then thanks everybody. We'll hold the next one of these calls next week and discuss further. Thank you.
Thanks.